Welcome. My name is Ronald. Today I will be your tour guide through your ACT Princeton Review Scores Back section. What we'll be covering today is how to read your score report, what the ACT tests, and then what the Princeton Review has to offer for your future testing needs. As you already know, the ACT tests 5 different areas. The first section is the math section. The second section is the reading section. The third section is the English section. The fourth section is the science reasoning section, and then there's also an optional essay section. The math section pretty much tests content from arithmetic through trigonometry. The reading section consists of 4 different passages that test your reading comprehension and knowledge. The third section, the English section, tests your skill and your knowledge in grammar and punctuation. And then the fourth and final section, beside the writing section, is the science reasoning section. This section is pretty much another reading section, but based on scientific information, including graphs, charts, tables, and research summaries. You also have in front of you a score report. This next slide gives you an image of what your score report looks like. Of course, this is not your score report, it is just an example. From left to right, I will explain how to read your score report. At the top of your score report, you will see your name and your address. And then from left to right, under the section that says your scores, each score for each section will be listed. For example, on this student's score report, we have the English section at 22, the math section, he or she scored a 20. For the reading section, he or she scored a 26. And then on the science section, he or she scored a 20. What ACT does is it takes all of the 4 different scores without the writing score, and it composes a composite score. For this student, the composite score was a 22. On top of that composite score, you will see almost a gauge. And that gauge lets you know where you land based on all the other young people who have taken the ACT. This student ranks in the 62nd percentile. Our next slide lists different schools in the region and their different ACT average scores. You see different schools as Iowa State University. The average ACT score of their students ranges between 22 and 28. If you remember correctly, our last example student scored a 22. And so as you see, he or she will be able possibly to get accepted into Iowa State University with that kind of a score. And as you go down the list, we want you to take your score and see where you may fall with some of these schools and their average ACT scores. After reading your score report, there are 3 questions that we want to ask you. Did you answer every question but miss easy and medium ones? Did you leave a lot of questions blank and miss a lot of easy and medium ones? Or maybe you answered most questions correctly and you guessed on what was left. We'll target this first one. If you answered every question but missed easy and medium ones, then the conclusion that we want you to reach is that you're working too quickly. The second category that we want you to ask, did you leave a lot of questions blank or did you miss a lot of easy and medium ones? If that's the category that you fell in, then you may need to work on mastering some of the content. The last category that you may fall in is that you answered most questions correctly and you guessed on what was left. If that's you, then you found a good balance between speed and accuracy. Next time, try to answer a few more questions while still maintaining that accuracy. You may now be asking yourself, what is a good ACT score? Well, guess what? That depends on where you're trying to go. Depending on the college or the university that you want to attend, that is going to be your yardstick to measure what a good ACT score is for you. For the student in our example who scored a composite of 22, we see here that Mankato State University pretty much has an average ACT score of 22. However, if this student wanted to get into the University of St. Thomas, then we must be mindful that that college's average ACT score is 24. And we're working our way up to the University of Minnesota, whose average ACT score is a 27. And so there is not necessarily a good or a bad score. Depending on where you want to go, depending on where you want your scores to take you, that is going to be the yardstick to measure whether your score was good or maybe needs a little improvement. Some of you may be wondering, well, we've taken the practice ACT exam, what about the SAT? Well, truth be told, it's a little different now than it was years ago. Instead of different regions accepting different tests, all colleges now accept either test. The SAT and the ACT are both tests of skill, and with any practice, any student can improve his or her scores. Neither of the tests are likely like the tests that you take in school. Both of them are very tricky. They are overstuffed so that you can't finish, and they're designed so that most students get a mid-range score. And so they're almost designed to trick you up, to cause you to fail, to help you not to achieve, and that's why the Princeton Review is here for you. Here's one tip that we want to give you. We want to let you know that accuracy is more important than speed. When you're taking any of these exams, the SAT or the ACT, you want to make sure that you're being more accurate than you are speeding through the test. So slow down. Say that to yourself. Slow down. Answer fewer questions, but when you answer fewer questions, you'll be more likely to get them correct. Now let's compare the two tests kind of again. Depending on what you want to take, you have just taken the ACT, but maybe you're saying, well, I want to take the SAT. Well, let me give you a little overview. The two tests differ in not just this one area, but in multiple areas, but let's focus on the guessing area. So when should you guess? If you plan on taking the SAT, you might want to know that guessing, if you guess incorrectly, you're penalized by 1/4 of a point for every wrong guess that you make with the multiple choice question. On the contrary, the ACT does not take off any points for wrong answers. So just by having that knowledge, that might help you determine which test that you want to take. A tool that we're going to teach you if you choose to take a Princeton Review course is something called the process of elimination. We call it PO. And we use the process of elimination to help us with problems that may have some tricky answers or maybe a little more difficult to solve. It increases your accuracy and it reduces the amount of time that you have to take on each question. And so the process of elimination is a good strategy, a good tool to use when taking either the ACT or the SAT. Let's do an example. We're going to use the process of elimination with this question just to show you how effective and efficient it is. What is the capital of Malawi? We have 5 answer choices here. A, London, B, Tokyo, C, Paris, D, Wazetta, and E, pardon my pronunciation, Lilongwe. You can already eliminate some of the apparently incorrect answers without spending time really thinking about it. For example, D, we automatically eliminate because we know Wazetta is in Minnesota. London, we can automatically eliminate because we know that that's in England. Tokyo and Paris are also world-class cities that we know are not in Malawi. And so using the process of elimination, we're left with the last answer, E. And in the Princeton Review, we will give you this strategy and a host of other strategies to help your accuracy and to help your efficiency. Now, comparing the two tests, we want to look at them side by side. The SAT versus the ACT. The SAT is trickier, but it has easier concepts. For example, the math section on the SAT, it might look imposing, but it really doesn't test anything past your basic 8th grade math knowledge. However, the ACT isn't as tricky, it's more straightforward, but it tests harder concepts. It tests all the way up to trigonometry. Next thing you might want to know, the SAT is more technique-based. And so if you're going to take the SAT, it's a little bit more about knowing how to take the test versus the content on the test. Whereas the ACT, being more straightforward, is more content-based. If you take the SAT, you might notice that it tests your vocabulary, whereas the ACT doesn't. The ACT has a science reasoning portion, and the SAT doesn't. To get the composite score on the SAT adds all 3 sections together to get a composite, whereas the ACT averages the 4 sections to get a composite. So I'm hoping to give you information so that you can make an informed decision about whether to take the SAT or the ACT. Now let's look at a testing timeline. Where should you be based on the year of your schooling? If you're in 11th grade, we recommend that you take the SAT and or the ACT at least once. Also feel free to take the SAT subject test or AP test if needed. If you're in the 12th grade, if you're a senior, we recommend that you maybe give both tests or either test at least another or even a third shot. If you need to also, you can take the ACT or the SAT subject test. On your screen, you see some of the different testing dates. You might want to take these into mind depending on your availability. ACT test dates differ than SAT test dates. So on your screen, you can kind of absorb this information to help you better decide also which of the 2 tests to take. You may be asking yourself, well, how many times should I take either test? Well, if you're preparing to take either test, you might want to, first of all, take one of them first in your junior year. But plan to take the test at least twice, but do not take the test more than 3 times. If you do take the SAT or ACT multiple times, then you can send all your scores, and many colleges will take your best score from each subject. That's something that we call the super score. So that's really a good advantage. So take it about 2 or 3 times, and some of your colleges will do a super score and just take the best score from each subject. So make sure you check with the admissions office of whichever colleges that you are thinking about to see if they super score. Now, as you all know, the college entrance exam is not just the only thing that colleges are looking for. Colleges also look for the rigor of the courses that you took in high school. How hard were they? How easy were they? Did you take any advanced placement classes? Did you take any advanced skill classes? They're looking at rigor. They also are looking at your GPA, your grade point average. They're looking at your academic curiosity. How varied were the content areas or the academic selections that you took? And then one of the 4th areas, as you all know, is why we're all here. They also look at your test scores. So test scores are an important part of the college entrance process. And actually on your transcript that your high school sends to your college, that amounts to about 40% of their decision, apparently, depending on the college. If you go to a smaller college, they might look at more personal factors. Whereas if you go to a larger college, they will be looking at more standardized numbers, college entrance exams, your GPA, because bigger colleges don't have as much time to really look at the different personal factors as smaller colleges may have. So you want to consider that also when selecting a college and when taking your entrance exam. Test scores, depending on the college, could probably amount to about 20% of what colleges consider. So these are just some rough estimates. We don't want you to take them literally because it's different based on which college you choose. Let's look at some test prep strategies for the 4 different sections on the ACT. We want you to get your best score, and so I'm just going to give you just a few strategies for free that the Princeton Review wants to teach you. We have a whole host of other strategies to help you get a better score and to help you be more efficient on your test. One thing you might want to know about the English section is this: the ACT tests against your ear. So sometimes it likes to trick you up because it knows you may make certain judgments based on what you think is the right answer in comparison to what is grammatically the right answer. So for example, at the grocery store, if you're at the grocery store, would it be correct to say you're getting 10 items or less? Or will it be correct to say you're getting 10 items or fewer? So the ACT is going to test how things sound in your ear. So just be very careful not to be tricked by common speech and by what your ear thinks sounds good. You want to make sure that you're doing things grammatically correct. Something that we also want to tell you is do not be afraid of the no change option. In some of your answers on the English section, the first answer selection will be no change. Do not be afraid to circle that because it is correct 25% of the time that it appears. Also, in some portions of the English section, delete will appear. If this appears in an underlined section or in connection with the underlined section, it will be correct about 50% of the time that it appears. For the next section, the math section, some of the strategies that we want to give you are listed on your screen. You're going to want to know how to ballpark. I'm not going to go into details with that, but it pretty much deals with estimating. If you learn how to ballpark, it will improve your efficiency and it will also improve your score. Something that I noticed that a lot of high school students tend to do or have kind of the propensity to do, they tend to overuse their calculator. In the Princeton Review courses, we're going to teach you when to use your calculator and when to not use your calculator, and then how to use your calculator to best suit what you're doing on the test. We also want to give you this next strategy. Take 2 passes. So go through the test the first time with the math section, and then if you have some extra time, go through it again and go over some problems that you may have had to skip. The next strategy we've seen when I first started the presentation, which is PO, process of elimination. This strategy helps us to eliminate the apparently wrong answers, to speed up our testing process, and to increase our accuracy. Another strategy that we want to give you is the personal order of difficulty. We call it the POOD. So we want you to start in the math section, start doing your easiest ones. Start doing the questions that look easiest to you because all the questions are worth the same amount of points. And so whether you answer a hard question or an easy question, they're both worth the same amount. And so using your own personal order of difficulty will help you ensure that you get all the easiest questions done first, and then you leave the hard ones for the end. Another thing we want to make sure that you do is we want to make sure that you read each question carefully. Careless mistakes happen when students do not read the question, but instead predict the answer. We want you to make sure that you read each question carefully so that the ACT doesn't trip you up. For the next section, which is the reading section, on your screen you have additional strategies. Don't take the test in the order it's presented. Now that may be a little confusing, but when you are presenting with the ACT again, you will notice that there are 4 different sections in the reading section. You're going to want to read the section that is easiest for you first. Many people find that the fiction section is not as easy to answer quickly, and so they save it for last. So you want to save the hardest section of those 4 within the reading section for last. We also want to make sure that you pace yourself. Timing is everything. Both the ACT and the SAT are designed for the average student not to finish. So please make sure that you pace yourself. One thing you may want to understand too for the reading section is that you don't have to read. You can either skip reading the passage altogether and just go straight to the questions, or you can skim. You should look for and eliminate wrong answers. Once again, we see that old classic skill that I taught you at the beginning coming up again. Process of elimination. Eliminate wrong answers right off so they don't distract you. The next skill is I want you to pay attention to distractors. Distractors are designed to distract your way of thinking, to break your concentration, and to throw you off track. So pay attention to them, but at the same time, don't let them distract you. Another skill that the Princeton Review is going to teach you is going to teach you how to translate the question into your own words and then find the answer that best matches what you've translated. The next section is the science reasoning section. Let's think about it like this. Instead of thinking about it as science reasoning, let's think about it as technical reading, because it really is just another reading section. Basic understanding of the scientific method will help you out. And to your surprise, or maybe not now since you've taken the test once, you really won't need to know much science knowledge because most of the information will already be given to you in the passages. That's why we call it technical reading. And so you want to make sure that you're going to read and understand the charts and the graphs in order to answer this section efficiently and effectively. There are 3 types of science passages. We have the charts and graphs, we have the experiments section, and then we have the fighting scientists section. Your screen gives you an example, or gives you an explanation rather, of what those sections consist of. A strategy that we want to give you, especially for the science section, is once again pooled, which means personal order of difficulty. You want to do the easiest section first and the hardest section last. Usually students find that the charts and graphs section is the easiest. Then they usually move on to the experiment section. If you find the reading section really easy, then maybe you should do the fighting scientist section second, but it all depends on your own personal order of difficulty. Another thing that we've noticed that the ACT does is when it presents you with 2 opposites, usually one of the 2 answer choices is the correct answer. So now you may be excited, you may be nervous, I don't know what exactly you're feeling, but I do know that the Prince Review is here to help you. Now you need to ask yourself, how will you prep? Will you do like the young lady on your left? Will you prep on your own? If you do want to prep your own, the Prince Review offers different books and resources at your local bookstore to help you with that preparation. Or we offer classes or tutors or even online sessions. But you do want to make sure that you get enough preparation in for either test that you take, whether it's the SAT or the ACT, because taking it without prep, you're probably not going to get as good of a score as you would get if you take it with preparation. Simply because neither one of the tests just test content. They are skill-based tests. And so you need to know how to take the test in order to master the test. Just a little bit more information about the Prince Review. Last year, we helped about 3.5 million students on their journey to college. And also of note, about 4 out of 5 Prince Review graduates get into their top choice school. And that's because we offer years of proven strategies to help people not just master the content on the test, but master the strategies on the test. And so that improves their accuracy, it improves their efficiency, and so they have an advantage over students who have not prepared or who have not taken courses to prepare for these college entrance exams. Just so you know, we prep for all the tests, the ACT, the SAT, those are pretty much the tests of your concern. If you also want to take the PSAT, we prep for the PSAT. When you get into some graduate programs, we prep for the graduate program entrance exams. We also teach content and strategies. So we don't just teach strategies, but we also brush up on some of the content. Our instructors go through intensive instructor training. So these are not just instructors that come walking off of the street with no training, with no skill, but these are instructors who are intensively trained to help you get the best possible college entrance exam score that you can. We also have different formats and options for your preparation. You can prep on your own using some of our resources that you can find at your local bookstore. You can prep in the traditional classroom setting. You can prep with a small group. You can prep with a tutor. You can even prep online. So we have many different options to help you on your journey to getting your best score so that you can get in your school of choice. In conclusion, we want you to be the best that you can be as far as your ACT or SAT score is concerned. And so if you're going to be a number, make sure it's a big one. The top score for the SAT is 2,400 and the top score for the ACT is 36. Well, thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope you've learned how to read your score report. I hope you learned exactly what's on the ACT. And then something I really want you to take home with you is how the Prince Review can help you. We're here for you. We're here to increase your score. We're here to get you into the college that you want to get to. And remember, a good score is based on the kind of score that you're looking for to get into the kind of school that you desire to get into. And we're here to help you. Look us up online at theprincereview.com or contact your local Prince Review office. Thank you.